this gets a little bit screwed up. It takes time for this to start.
No worries.
It says it's now streaming live.
Yeah, it's not quite yet.
Oh,
I'm seeing another screen. Yeah, I think this should be it. I just want to make absolutely sure. Okay, it's looking like good. Now I've lost my screen. Hello?
we're here.
We're still here.
Yeah, why don't I have control of?
We see the screen and we see that it's shared.
Okay, I finally got it back. Okay, let's get started. My name is Mark Miller. I'll be the Zoom host for today. I have to admit a few people right now. So Anne, if you will introduce our speaker, we will get started.
Okay, first I'm going to ask that everyone here mute yourself so that we get to hear everything that our wonderful guest today has to say. And today we are hosting Charlene Moore. She's listed on the state government web pages as one of the Wisconsin's Women Who Inspire, and that she does. Based on her childhood opportunities, she wanted to provide similar opportunities to youth in Milwaukee, and 20 years ago started Urban Underground, which has provided leadership and education skills, promoting education of youth as well. And more recently, she's focused on providing alternatives to youth incarceration. And that, I believe, is what she will talk about today. She started the organization Youth Justice Milwaukee. Here's Charlene.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you all so much for the opportunity to be with you all this Sunday, this beautiful Sunday morning. My presentation, I'll breeze through some of my slides just to give you a snippet of the landscape of the work we're doing here in Milwaukee and Wisconsin as a whole, and just a little bit about our organization and just some stories about my time working with young people. So thank you so much again for this amazing opportunity. Again, my name is Charlene Moore. I am the co-founder and director of Urban Underground, which is a youth leadership organization for high school age young people. We center our work around activism and organizing and, just really centering young people at the forefront of their own change, of their own transformative change. And about 3 years ago, we started Youth Justice Milwaukee, which is centered around closing youth prisons. We have 2 here, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. We have 2 here in Wisconsin. And again, we're looking to provide alternatives. So I always like to start off with a quote. I chose Frederick Douglass, which is, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And I take that wholeheartedly because when I look at the work that we're doing, working with young people, our time is now. Our time is to engage them, support them, and pour back into their lives as adults. And regardless of our background, our affiliation, it is our duty, as the village. I always talk about that. It is our duty as the village to support young people. So it's great to start doing that right now. This is, I'm not going to necessarily read the letter. I just wanted to take snippets from it. This is a letter from Donna, and Donna has become one of the members of our family. I met Donna now probably a couple of years ago when she was spending her time in Lincoln Hills and actually Copper Lake. So Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake is our youth prison that's located in Lincoln County, Wisconsin. It's probably about 3.5 to 4 hour drive from Milwaukee. And I started connecting with Donna through another advocate that was assisting and supporting her. And, Donna was just a firecracker, a little, I don't even think Donna's, 5 feet tall. She's probably about 4'11". And so this tiny little girl, right, that's no longer a little girl, but this tiny framed, young person, because unfortunately of some of the circumstances that have gone on in her life, she took a different path and, tended to get in trouble a lot until it ended her up in an incarcerated setting. And so I started visiting Donna, talking to her daily. We would go up I started going up monthly, to visit her. And I wanted her to, she started writing me. And I wanted to, I asked her for permission to take snippets, of some of her story so that we could share. Sorry about that. I'm at home, so still, home life with technology, right? So, she shared with me in one of her letters just how she felt. And, I'll read a couple of the excerpts. My motivation in going to school went down and I started going on the run from group homes. I didn't have anybody, so I felt like I didn't have to succeed for anybody. So I was acting reckless because I felt unloved, unwanted, and I felt I did everything wrong. And, Donna talked about how she just kind of felt alone and felt that nobody, really cared for her or loved her. And when we talk about, transformative change, we have to start looking at what is it that young people may be missing? What is it that where is it that we need to put the resources? And the more I thought about it, the more it really, allowed me to personally dig a little bit deeper into our work to say, you know what, when young people mess up, it's not about the punitive measures. We have to, find ways of love. We have to find ways to correct them. And, it really centers our work when we think about, okay, how do we teach and how do we educate our community to really, do the work that we need to. And so, Urban Underground was really birthed out of the premise that young people they're geniuses, they're talented, they're motivated, they have the strength and the passion to really work on the conditions that impact our society. And so this is a picture of, years ago of some of our students that participated in Urban Underground. All of these young people are now adults. I don't know if you can see my cursor. If you see right in the back, this is our state representative, David Bowen. He's also my brother, but he was in our program. But as a young person, he was just on fire, for just learning. And he took that opportunity and that ability to make change. I need to put a slide in here of David Crawley, who is also an alum and former member of Urban Underground, who is now our county supervisor. So we've had some, I can literally point to each of these young people and tell you about their life now. And, and a lot of them credit their success and, what they've learned to being in Urban Underground. So when we started Youth Justice Milwaukee, again, it was centered around this sort of premise of, we have to do something differently. We have to look at models and look at best practices to change the systems that we're currently living in. So Youth Justice in Milwaukee was formed in 2016 to address the current crisis with youth prisons in Wisconsin. We seek to learn from incorporated models and approaches from other jurisdictions and states that have closed youth prisons and replace them with better and more cost-effective continuums of services for adjudicated youth. YJM is a collective of voices of persons who were incarcerated as youth, families of those who were or are currently incarcerated as youth, local advocates for youth, and national experts. What we want to say initially is that, look, we can take best practices, we can look at what other folks are doing and to say, you know what, there are better ways for us to spend dollars in this state that's going to reap a bigger benefit. And, again, I always, use pictures because I think for me, pictures are 1,000 words where, we have to invest back into young people. And when we talk about that investment, we have to let our elected officials know that, what, we have to fight for that sort of investment, whether it looks like more into education, more into job opportunities. Currently, right now, I sit on as an advisory board for Employ Milwaukee. And one of the things that Employ Milwaukee does is having opportunities for young people throughout the year. But one of the things that I really enjoy that Employ Milwaukee provides, they provide a myriad of programs, but during the summer, they employ hundreds of young people. What I'm now advocating for is money to go back into youth jobs. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to have 800 or 900 youth positions, I'm advocating that we start out with a minimum of 2,000 employed youth during our summer months, where young people get a little change in their pocket. They're learning job skills. They're connected with agencies and organizations. And again, an opportunity for them to be engaged during the summer. So I'm gonna breeze through this. Just wanted to, give a sense of when we look at demographics and when we think about, how our state is laid out, and the reason why we talk about our work and the disparities within the work. I just want to give some really, really basic numbers. So when we think about, the makeup of Wisconsin, Wisconsin roughly has almost 6 million people in there. White people represent a higher composition of the population. And Milwaukee is the biggest city in the state, which has a population of a little over 600,000 people in the city. Milwaukee is also, one of the most racially segregated cities in the country. And again, when we look at that racial composition, whites still tend to is a higher population than Black people. And and again, I'm pulling out a few of these excerpts when we talk about demographics, so that we have an understanding of, when I talk about the work, where we're coming from. And some of the ills that also permeates our city. Milwaukee also currently ranks about 4th in major cities as having children living in poverty. All right. So when we think about, some of the things that are going on in the city, one of the things that a big part of our work that consists of is the racial disparities. When we talk about, young people being incarcerated, Black youth in Wisconsin are 15 times more likely than their white counterpart to be incarcerated. And that we should be screaming from the rooftops that, that's one of the things that we will not stand for. We will not stand for the disparities that says, that looks at, for example, the othering people, the other, right? And so that is a huge problem here in this city, as well as in this state. A lot of the folks throughout the country know that Wisconsin incarcerates the most Black and brown people. If you've heard of the book Evicted, a disproportionate of people of color are evicted in the city of Milwaukee. When we look at unemployment, the city is high for that. When we look at education and the number of young people that graduate or don't graduate from high school, it stacks on top of each other, the issues that permeates the city and the state. Some of the contributing factors that go along with the disparities are racial bias, law enforcement. Again, we all, the young people that are being brought to the front doors of the detention, law enforcement is a primary factor to that. Where jurisdictions are located, a lot of times, located in communities of color, the laws that permeates the city, again, are very, very, very punitive, and we have to move to a more transformative and restorative model. Some people may know and some people may not know that the trends have been going down drastically over the course of the last decade or two. The numbers in number of youth being incarcerated have significantly gone down. And I use this as a backdrop because, sometimes we may turn on the news and we may think otherwise. We may think that crime is going up, but essentially crime is actually going down. There's a lot of things that has occurred, whether they're shifting in community advocacy. There are more programs that are being put out there to support young people. There are a lot of changes in addition to cost that are going on to reduce the population of crime. And, one of the reasons why we started this work was just some of the things that were happening at Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake. The ACLU and the Juvenile Law Center at that time had sued the state of Wisconsin for what was going on with young people. So even though a young person gets incarcerated, it doesn't mean that they get sexually harassed. It doesn't mean that they are physically abused. It doesn't mean that they should have bear spray, sprayed on them. These are things that were happening to young people. And unfortunately, they were happening here in the state of Wisconsin. Really quick synopsis of what was going on. We chose to there was a bill that came out in 2017 with the former Governor Scott Walker called Act 185. And a few things that I want to just really quickly say what Act 185 was supposed to do. Number one, it was supposed to close Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake by July 1st of 2021. So that's supposed to be next year. And unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately, with what's going on, it's not going to happen. Act 185 was supposed to also build 2 what they call type 1 facilities for young people that were deemed as serious juvenile offenders. These were young people that were under adult sentences, so it might have been a 16-year-old that may be waived as an adult or a 17-year-old that was waived as an adult. Things like carjacking, was put into these sorts of categories. And again, they wanted to create build 2 separate facilities for that, as well as expand Mendota, which is our treatment center. It's co-located with adults. Currently, we have 29 beds in Mendota. And again, we need more treatment centers, but we need treatment in a little bit of a different way. And I'll talk a little briefly about that shortly. And then one of the other bigger things is that counties were supposed to create what are called secure residential care centers for children and youth. We deemed them as they were supposed to establish like mini prisons across the state. And again, we wanted smaller spaces, but we wanted more humane, more home-like facilities close to home that supported young people. And so just a really quick synopsis of, what this plan does. The first icon is, where Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake is, or the youth prison is, compared to where we are in Milwaukee. Currently, right now, with the legislation, it moved $110 million into creating secure residential care centers. And Milwaukee applied, Dane County, Racine, and Brown County applied. It was also supposed to, again, deem $25 million for those type 1 facilities, which at the time wasn't enough dollars. Again, we're talking about a lot of money here. And supposed to put in about $59 million for the expansion of Mendota. Just some updates. Because of our advocacy, funding was taken out of the type 1 facility because we said we don't want any type 1 facilities. The young people that are currently at Lincoln Hills, the SJOs and the non-SJOs, they're co-located together. So they're not separated. There's no need to separate young people. They have a lot of the same needs and have a lot of the same supports. So we're talking about $169 million. And let me preface it by saying, This is not inclusive of programs. This is not for overhead. This is not for community alternatives. This $169 million is solely designed for building buildings. Okay. And I want to let that sink in for a little bit, because we can find $169 million to build buildings. However, when we talk about the cost that it takes to educate a young person, right? It's a fraction of the cost that it costs to incarcerate a young person. We're talking about lots and lots of money. So when we look at the Department of Corrections as a whole, and we look at, this is a past budget, we're talking about $33 million, over $33 million to operate a facility to solely incarcerate young people. Again, they're young people, an additional, $6.5 million that it costs to supervise young people when they're out in the community. Like, these are things that we should say, how do we get together in our respective communities? What can we do with these dollars that will better support young people? And when I say that, I wanted to give a quick example of what do alternatives, or when we talk about this, components of a continuum, what does that look like, right? They're very basic and simple things: access to education, gang intervention, substance abuse, restorative justice, right? So if a young person gets in trouble at school, it might, we might establish a youth court here in Milwaukee and say, you know what, instead of a young person going to a regular court system, they would be mandated to go to youth court, right? And their peers may say, well, you got to do community service, and you got to serve on youth court, and you got to write a letter, or, whatever it is. We have to start looking at a lot of different alternatives. And there are a lot of successful things, especially such as mentoring, intensive mentoring. Milwaukee has started a mentoring program here called Credible Messengers, Cream City Credible Messengers, that are using individuals with lived experiences to support young people before they go into the system, young people that are already currently in the system, right? There's so many different things that we can do. And when we look back at that $169 million, there are better ways for us to support and share that. And so some of, I'm going to actually slide through this slide. And talk about, really just bring it back to, some of my personal experiences. This individual right here is Ariane. We met Ariane back when he was in high school. And Ariane experienced so many adversity. He was adopted when he was young. Unfortunately, his mother was a drug addicted mother. And so him and his brother was put into the foster care system. And so they were adopted when he was a baby. And, and he had an older foster care parent. And unfortunately, as Ariane got older, his mental health began to permeate a little bit more. And so he, was always in trouble at school. We would connect with teachers. We would figure out, okay, how can we support? His adopted father just didn't have the patience or the skill set to be able to support an individual like him. And again, it wasn't just him in the home as well. And so, it got to the point where Ariane landed himself in trouble, and he ended up being incarcerated. Ariane is spending 8 years of a sentence that, he got in when he was about 19 years old, and he's currently 25. I talk to him often, and I've been in consistent communication and contact with him ever since he got in, because again, if the tools were available to really pour resources into Ariane when he was a young person, I would gladly say that he would not been in the position that he was in. But because resources are not formulated in a way that supports children, especially children that have the highest need, it really puts us in a really tough situation where, you know, we have to now, you know, look at incarcerating an individual versus looking at how do we attend to their mental health? How do we support them around the critical needs, you know, that they may have? Ariane wasn't a horrible child, you know, young person. He wasn't a horrible child. He just had some high needs. And unfortunately, you know, those high needs were not met. And so we come to this point where he has a year left, and we're talking about, you know, life outside of incarceration. What is his home life going to look like? What job, you know? So he's worried about, where am I going to live? You know, he calls me mom, where am I going to live? And where am I going to work? And so we're talking about that sort of planning and talking about how to support him in that phase when he goes out. And he's grown a lot, the maturity level. And we always talk about the brain development of children. You know, we need to use brain science more when we're talking about laws and practices for children. Their brain develops in a much different way, you know, so they mature, you know, at different stages of their lives, right? And so we need to do practices that are more in line with their brain development. Wisconsin is still one of few states that still charge a 17-year-old as an adult. And I strongly believe that, you know, children, as far as this adult notion, children shouldn't be looked at as an adult probably until they're like 24. But, you know, certainly up until they're about 21, where again, those that brain capacity is being developed even more. And so I leave with this last quote. And I hope to have a great discussion with you all. For these are all our children. We will all profit by or pay for what they become. James Baldwin. Thank you all so much. And I look forward to a really great conversation.
Okay. We do have a question from Bruce Wiggins.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's whether it is a question. Oh, never mind.
I can stop you. Would you guys like me to stop sharing as well? So you could take back over controls?
Mark?
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, I would just cancel your screen share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
All right,
great.
perfect. I think Anne, go ahead, Anne.
Yeah. Mark, may I ask a question?
Just go ahead. That's how we're working it.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Charlene. That was just wonderful. I understand that you came from Jamaica and then actually went through the citizenship process here in the US. And much of what you have done since, I mean, this amazing work, was inspired by some experiences you had as a high school student, or can you explain where that occurred and what kinds of experiences those were?
Yeah, absolutely. I will absolutely briefly share that. So yes, I am a native to this country. I moved to the US when I was 6 years old. So I've spent most of my life here, and Milwaukee is the place that I know and love and know is home. It's so funny because people always ask my uncle. My uncle was the one that came here first and then brought my mom and his siblings over. And, you know, everybody always asks, like, okay, uncle, out of all, like, what happened to Florida? What, you know, what happened to the warmer continent, you know, the warmer cities, right? But he came here on farm work, and we love Milwaukee. And so now, you know, most of the family came here to Milwaukee and now are spread out throughout the country. But, you know, it's been one of those things where growing up in the city, I loved my childhood. Milwaukee was very different even back in the 80s than it is now. And just also that sense of community. So when I was in high school, I started an individual from the YMCA, the North Central, it was called North Central YMCA at the time, which was on 12th and Garfield. And one of the staff came in, were passing out flyers, asking students if they wanted jobs, that they could learn how to, they would have to first learn how to swim and they could get a job as like a lifeguard or a swim instructor. And so we were like, job, absolutely, we want a job. And so I started going to the Y and I learned how to swim there. And it also was my first job opportunity. And I learned how to swim and I became a lifeguard. I started teaching swim lessons. It's funny because one of the students that was in our program, I taught her how to swim as a baby. It was, just surreal and incredible, right? And it was one of those things where it was just like, wow, this space. And there was a lot of young people that just based on the neighborhood that it was in, a lot of young people was at the Y. And so we had this sense of kind of entitlement because, we worked at the Y in different areas at the front desk and the teen center, just different aspects in the pool area. And, we wanted more. And so one of our adult advisor, which is one of my amazing mentors, Viola Rembert, who now runs Heart Love Place, shared that, okay, well, if you guys want to, do more, there's this one program that the Y runs called Leaders Club. And we can check it out and, you guys can have a leaders club here. So we were like, yes, tell us more. So we looked into it and we thought this was amazing. Yes, we're going to do a leaders club at the Y. And so we started Leaders Club and we pulled young people, our age, high school age young people together. And, we, from having, 10 to 15 young people, we built that club to about 80 plus young people that met every other week at the Y. And, we did service projects and, we fundraised and we decided what we wanted to do with our resources and having that sort of, I would call it power, right? Having that sort of power, we felt that we could run the world. And it was an amazing opportunity for us, for me particularly to say, wow, as a young person, with amazing adult supporters, I don't want to forget that we had amazing adults that supported whatever we wanted to do and was there to guide and ask us critical questions. We felt that, yes, there are so many things that we can do. And that's what propelled me for moving forward with our work, because that's where I met my now husband, Reggie Moore, who is the director of the Office of Violence Prevention, met him at the Y, right? And we started Urban Underground together back in early 2000 and just started having more conversations around how can young people be change agents? How can young people be a force? Right. And a lot of times people say young people are the future. Yes, that is absolutely correct. But young people are the present. They're the right now. And we have to think about this right now and how to support their growth and development right now so that they continue to be that future voice. So thank you for that question, Anne.
Thank you.
There are some questions in the chat. I think it'll be easier if I just read them.
You can, and then Lorraine had her hand up as well, so we'll give her time after a question from the chat.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Lorraine.
So, this one comes from Nancy. When do you expect Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake will be closed?
Oh my gosh. Nancy, that is a fantastic question. And that's something that we're working on right now. Unfortunately, because it's set into law that it has to close, and we know that's not going to happen because the spaces that were supposed to have been built or provided resources, money for, Milwaukee unfortunately had their dollars cut. They proposed about $24 million to renovate their current detention center, and no contract with any of the agencies or any of the cities. Racine is all ready to go. They were provided $40 million. Brown County was provided $40 million. Again, Milwaukee was cut. Their proposal was cut by $8 million. And unfortunately, Dane County bowed out, said, you know what, we can't have this on our shoulders to, even put up their own money and expect to be paid back to meet the deadline. They said, no, we can't do this. And so right now there are only 3 counties that are being, that are looking at the work, but unfortunately, nothing can happen by that deadline. So a new law will have to be proposed in order for Lincoln Hills to be closed down. And they're looking, so, even though that institution will eventually be closed down, it will be turned into an adult facility, unfortunately. It will be turned into adult facility because there are so many of the adult spaces that are overpopulated. So more than likely, Lincoln Hills, Copper Lake will be turned into an adult institution. But we're looking for, a better opportunity for young people to be brought back home. And the population at Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake, based on the pandemic, has been a gift and a curse, but it has really decreased the number of young people going into a correctional setting, because people are like, wait a minute, we have to do some things differently. And the pandemic has pushed people to say, nope, we gotta, you can't use detention centers as dumping grounds for young people. Let's look at these alternatives. Let's figure out, some different things. And counties have stepped up to figure out some of those different things. So we know that it can be done. So great question, Nancy.
Okay, there's another one. This one comes from Ricky. What is the role of the arts in your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Arts, well, for us is absolutely a critical component. Some of our partners throughout the country have used art as a tool to, number one, educate and provide that opportunity for young people, specifically young people, to be able to express themselves and tell their stories. There are a few organizations. There's one in particularly, and I'm going to forget their name. They did some incredible work in our detention centers. And again, unfortunately, because of funding cuts and budget cuts, they had to close their organization. And so we're, again, looking at partners that are supportive, or again, and using the arts as a tool for social justice activists and young people to really be able to express their work. So it plays a very, very critical role, and we always love to partner with organizations to really use it as a tool to support young people, again, to be able to express themselves. And the other thing too is to be able to educate and teach other individuals about their role and their work. There's this organization that they're not here. They're a national organization, and they use VR, virtual reality, and art is a component of that. And they use that virtual reality. We're hoping next year to have them do an installment here with the young people that were formerly or currently incarcerated. And they told that story through that virtual reality. You literally put on goggles and you hear a young person's voice telling their story, and completely powerful. So art is a critical component, Ricky. And then if we want to go to Lorraine, thank you so much for your patience.
Sure. This is Lorraine. I work a lot with the forum group, and I just wanted to mention that Ann Batiza is our forum group member who invited you, and I'm so glad you're here with us today, Charlene. What a powerful family. David and you and Reggie and probably many others. That's wonderful. We thank you for all your work.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Another thing I just wanted to mention, and that there's an excellent article in the Sunday Journal this morning about a mentoring program for young Black boys and men. And it has a wonderful resource of organizations that are out there. I have a little family, a mom and a boy who I love very much, and I want to get her maybe looking at some of those. So that would be, just wanted to let you know. And thank you again.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that I check that article out as well. Lorraine, but those, so, you know, and you bring up, and Bruce, I gotcha. And Lorraine, I think you bring up a critical component. If we're able to invest in opportunities such as mentoring, we know that there's some disparities. We know that there's some issues. That's okay, great. Let us have some programs that are specific, you know, so Black men and boys, like, okay, what needs to happen? You know, what are some specific programs? Currently right now, we were fortunate enough, I am a part of a small collaborative with two other organizations. One is called My Sister's Keeper, and the other is called Represent. And they both work with girls. One is focused on girls that have been sexually trafficked. And the other focus on working with young ladies in schools, whether it's middle and high school, or they also go into the detention center and do these amazing, powerful workshops, both critical. And so, you know, when we've been doing our work, incarceration for girls is works very differently because girls have separate needs. There are different things that girls need. A program for boys doesn't work the same. For that same program doesn't work the same for girls. However, a program for girls can work for boys as well, right? So there are these specific things that if we're able to say, how do we look at best practices? How do we look at the research? How do we start to develop things that's going to work for the folks that are here? Because different cities might be a little different, right? But how do we use those sort of strategies to say, you know what, we can do better? Why don't we focus on these specific things and put resources into what's going to work? So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Lorraine. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put in the chat just a part of our website. We partnered with Hanson Dodge this past summer, and the young people did an amazing art installation where it focused on photos and just, you know, telling our community, this is how you can invest back into young people. And on this particular page of our website, it has lots of different organizations. So, you know, some people are like, what do I do, Charlene? Where do I go? You know, based on your, you know, your skills, your talent, what you want to, you know, your resources, there are lots to do, but we give a list of organizations that you can support.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Go ahead, Bruce.
I think you said in that law from 2017, there were supposed to be local councils established or something local. If I heard that right, I'm wondering how we're doing here.
Yeah, so for those, you know, local spaces, they call them SRCCCYs. We just say SRCCs for short. Those were supposed to be spaces locally that was supposed to support young people. It's supposed to be the sort of closer to home model. But again, we were fighting for home-like, smaller, you know, I don't know if there are any educators that are on this space, but if there are anyone that ever worked with special needs young people, you know that you can't work with 10, 20, 30, like there's no possible way that you can work with that many and with one person providing that young person with the things that they need. So you may can say, well, I need to, have 2 or 3, or even based on their needs. It might just be a one-on-one type of relationship based on their needs, right? And so it's important that we understand that these sort of closer to home models was supposed to be designed in a much different way. They weren't supposed to be prison-like, right? Barbed wires, bar doors, that sort of things. It wasn't supposed to be that. And so unfortunately, because of the money that has not been, the contracts that has not been disbursed to any of the counties, no county has started any renovations, any breaking ground to create their secure residential care center for these young people. So we're working right now. The legislation won't be back until January. The legislature won't be back until January. So right now we're figuring out, can we get another bipartisan bill? Because again, this isn't about Democrat or Republican. These are about young people. This is about all the young people here in the state of Wisconsin. How do we support children at the end of the day, right? This is not a political issue. And so we want to get that passed to lawmakers to say, all right, children are still suffering here. What is it that we need to do differently? So thank you for that, Bruce. But we're back at square one, unfortunately. But that's where the work continues.
There are a couple more questions in the chat. Do you have access?
I do. I'm going to go to Ricky and then I'm going to go to the chat because I saw you put your hand up and I don't know if you wanted to chime in really quick.
Hi, Charlene. This is Barbara Lee, actually.
Oh, Barbara. I see you. Yes, I saw the name and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Yes. Hey, Barbara.
But I just wanted to thank you so much for all your work with our theater, Milwaukee Public Theater, and just all of the incredible work that you do in the arts, but also in advocacy with kids. I've seen it work. I've seen the amazing changes that you're able to wring out of the world, and I appreciate it. Also wondered how you're operating now under COVID. How are you doing things virtually?
Yeah, Barbara, that's an amazing question. It's, it's difficult, it's challenging, but it takes a lot of legwork. So our staff, so we still operate Urban Underground, and we ran an amazing summer program. We're now into fall, and as everyone knows, COVID cases has spiked. And so the safety of our young people are definitely important. So we did recruitment virtually for our new program and have a new group of young people that are currently in Urban Underground. And so a lot of it is one-on-one, building those relationships because, as you know, it's easier to build a relationship with someone in person. You have coffee with them, you meet with them. I have tea. Tea is my love. So, it's the conversation, it's the communication, is that personal interaction. And so with young people, that's really what we pride ourselves on, is that personal interaction. And with, the looming pandemic, we are making sure that we're reaching out to young people. Our staff schedule one-on-ones with them. We just make sure that they're okay because, this is tough. It's a tough time, that we're in. We recently found out that one of our young people, came down with the virus, and, I reached out to her just to check on her, see how she was doing. And, she, just was grateful for, again, that reaching out, but she said it was tough, particularly the isolation. Right. And so she has a mom that has pre-existing, conditions. And she said it was just tough. The isolation was tough, so we have to really, reach out to our loved ones, our family, our friends, because we're now going into the holidays. The holidays is a time where people get together. You got folks flying across the country to be with you. And unfortunately for many, this won't be that time. And so, use technology. I plan on doing a Zoom gathering, with my family on Thanksgiving. So we could all, this opportunity for us to all be together in a sense. Right. And so I really, really hope that, we continue to just support each other. And I think that's what's going to make us successful. Thank you so much for that question, Barbara. And I'm going to jump really quick to, one of the questions Jerry asked, do you partner with Andre Lee Ellis? We got this. And yes, I know Andre very well. He does amazing work. We absolutely, share with him about the work that we do, we're very familiar with the work that he does. When he needs support for any of the young people, we make sure that we make those connections. It's again, that village mentality. How do we support each other? So yes, we support Andre very, very much. We love his work as well as other organizations throughout the city. What about the impact of literacy on youth's future? Are there resources for youth without functional literacy levels? This poses a really great question because, when we talk about literacy, we also talk about education, right? Unfortunately, what some of the things that I've seen when Donna came out, like she barely was able to get her GED because, the education, in my opinion, based on the conversations that I've had with a lot of the young people, were subpar. And, from the data that we've gotten there, about 99% of the young people that are admitted to Lincoln Hills have some sort of mental health issue. So they're all on meds. They're all put on meds. It took Donna probably about 3 months for her body to detox she was on about 4 different types of medication. So it took her about 4 months for her body to detox all the things that, that she, was on for years. If you were in a prison, oh, you can't sleep. Oh, we have a medication for that. Yeah, if I was locked up, I probably wouldn't be able to sleep either. Right. And so they put a lot of they have a lot of medication, or put young people on a lot of these medication. And I go back to say that education overall is a critical, component. We have a lot of our young people that, are not locked up and, don't have a great literacy. The reading and just some of the critical skills that they need. And I say that to say that's why it's so important for funds to be put right back into education. We have to take education more seriously. We have to provide young people with smaller class sizes, more teachers in the classrooms. If we had a 1-to-15 ratio, where young people can then get their needs met, we would be raising a different generation of young people where we're saying, what, we prioritize young people's future. We prioritize their education, and the resources are going to deem that. And so we have to do a better job in making sure that the resources are really focused at a young person's development. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you so much. This has just been totally inspiring. I can see why you are a woman who inspires. I wanted to ask, it seems like so many things come down to budget. And when you see that $250,000 to $300,000 per year per child incarcerated is spent, that number is just staggering. And, we had recent budget hearings here and also, a request to move resources from the police to community organizations. And I'm wondering, what is the greatest barrier that you see to getting these facilities defunded so then you can use those funds to do really constructive things with these children?
Yeah. And it goes back to education. If we are not on 2 fronts, we have to educate the community, because there are lots of community members that feel that lock them up. Like somebody does something wrong, you lock them up, right? That's been this country's entire mantra. The United States incarcerates per capita the more people in this country, or in the nation, right? Throughout the world, we incarcerate more individuals. So what do we do as a result of that is, okay, number one, it seems that a lot of people are just probably not educated or just miseducated, right? Because of what they see in the news, what they read in the papers. It's like, oh my gosh, so we have to begin, number one, to tell those stories. Folks just getting to, I was on Expo, Ex-Prisoners Organizing. I think I think the acronym is for Peggy West is the director of that organization. she had Saturdays. I think they might have been like once a month or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, I think they were once a month. Like the second Saturday of the month. She had one yesterday that I just, was on. Senator Taylor was on to share, just giving information. And for me, I need to learn on the young people, on the young youth side and on the adult side. And so a big part of that is, how do we educate the larger community, not necessarily preaching to the choir, right? But to a broader community, folks up north, elected officials, right? How do we educate them? Because community then can put pressure on elected officials who sits at the decision-making table to make the rules, to make the laws that make these policies, right? We have to continue that sort of work. ACLU does a lobby day. I think it's in February. There's lots of different things that happen that we have to get involved with. And so particularly as white constituents, it's important that, based on how you feel, it is important that you share that with your elected official. We cannot deny the impact of your voice at the table. And so that's one of the things that we've been fighting for, and to say, okay, we elect the lawmakers are the ones that make the laws. They are a lot of times greatly influenced by their constituents. If we educate their constituents to talk about particular issues, raise the age. A young person should not be committed as an adult at age 17. Again, Wisconsin is one of, I think we're still one of 6 states that still treat young people as adults, put them into an adult system, raise the age. Life without parole. Can you imagine a young person can receive a life sentence at 15, 16? We incarcerate young people in this state as young as 10 years old. We can lock up a 10-year-old child in this state. That's atrocious, right? And so again, if we're telling these stories, if we're educating constituents throughout our broader community to be able to say, okay, let me call up to my elected official to let them know how I feel on particular bills or issues, I think we'll be in much of we'll start in that direction of getting some of these laws and policies transformed and changed. Great question.
Okay, Lorraine, maybe you could tell about next week's forum, or do you want me to?
I'm back on.
Okay.
Hello. Our next week, November 29th, will be one of our Share the Plate organizations, one of the groups that we're supporting through our monthly Share the Plate work, and that is for December. The organization is Planned Parenthood, and we're going to have Molly Lancet there speaking, and she will be explaining the history of the program, but also some new projects that they're starting. So that would be next week, November 29th.
Okay, do we have one last question? Okay, Ann?
Where do you get your energy?
Okay. Oh, that's funny. I get it from the young people. It's so funny because, I've worked with young people for so long. They continue to inspire me. I'm so blessed and grateful to be in this work, because I would do it for free. I honestly, have and would do it for free, because there's this joy of waking up every day, knowing that, the gifts that God has given me, I'm able to wake up every day and say, you know what, thank you, God, for the opportunity to walk in my destiny and to do the work that I absolutely enjoy. So the energy definitely comes from above, but it also comes from these amazing young people that continue to inspire me every day. And it's so funny because I think about how things, come full circle. So, me and Reggie had children, and, there are pictures of our boys, our twin boys. We have three biological children and a slew of non-biological children, right? And so I think of the picture, when one of the twins were young, he had a megaphone. He was holding a megaphone, in his chair, in his carrier, and it's one of my favorite, pictures because now, they're both 16 years old. They'll be 17 next month. And one of our young people that we met when we first started Urban Underground, before we started Urban Underground, we were going into elementary schools, just doing life skills training for free because it was just something that we were passionate about, changing and transforming the lives of young people. And we met this particular young person named Jeff Kennedy in elementary school. He was going to Lee Elementary School, and come full circle. When we were recruiting for Urban Underground, we went to his high school and saw him and was just like, oh, and he remembered us. He was just like, oh my gosh, Mr. Reggie, Miss Charlene, it was surreal. And he joined the program. He transformed it, Jeff was smart, but, he was doing horrible in school just because school wasn't a place that engaged him in a way that was meaningful. It was like this sort of, it didn't connect with him. And so when we told Jeff, when he started doing trainings and talking to Jeff, like, look, this is a game that you got to play, and you got to play it well. You have to, let people understand that you know how to do this work. And he transformed his life by, doing his work. Like, the boy was smart. And so he started getting 3.0s, and he loved to DJ. And we bought him his first, DJ set, the turntables, and, he wanted to do, so we bought it for him and said, okay, this is what you do. And he became an amazing DJ throughout the city. He was amazing. And fast forward, he now has his own media company called Power Forward Media. If anybody is my Facebook friend, go on my Facebook page. And he now has Power Forward Media Junior, which my son, one of my sons, who is just taking this, he's like his right-hand guy. And it's just so amazing. Like, my young person is now, managing his own business, and my kid works for him, and is really good at what he does. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So it's one of those things that, again, that investment in young people, we got to continue that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much, Charlene. And I think this is a good time to end the program.
Unfortunately, so.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.